Welcome to Draftcast, where we are Brandon and Steven, and we'll be touching base on all the crazy movements with all the free agency and everything happening around the league. Let's dive right into it. Oh, what's going on, Steven? It's been a couple days since we put our last video out, and kind of let the free agency die down a little bit, being that it was so hectic. I mean, you would have to just sit on a live video and kind of just do it as it popped up because stuff was just going wild. But now that stuff's settled down a little bit, and most of your big names are signed and with their new home or re-signed in somewhere else. Let's dive into this and do some breakdowns on what we think and good moves, bad moves, so on and so forth.
Yeah, man, it's been an exciting week, a little over a week, man. It's been exciting, so I'm ready to dive into it and see what all's been moved around.
Yeah, we might as well just start. I have the free agency tracker up. CBS Sports, shout out. Nice, easy, has a little rundown. We might cover people that we already covered, and obviously, if we did, we ain't gonna spend a ton of time on them. Just blow by them, but other people that new signings and whatnot will definitely spend a little time and put our thoughts and our ideas, and if we think it was a good move, if we think it maybe they should have went different routes, so on and so forth. So let's just dive in with the Arizona Cardinals, who actually before we got on this video, me and you were just talking about how they potentially could be the worst team in the league, with Kyler being out, potential of trading DeAndre. There's just so many factors with that. But one big thing that they did do was they signed Kaiser White, who me and you talked about this. I really wanted to come to Pittsburgh, and I think they got him on a pretty friendly deal, 2 years, $11 million. He's a burner. He's fast as hell. So I mean, I think that's a pretty good signing for them. I mean, I think that team has a lot more holes than just linebacker, and I don't know if Kaiser White's the answer or anything like that, but he's been solid for the Eagles, and I think that is obviously an upgrade for them. But they definitely have a lot more problems on that team than just a linebacker and signing Kaiser White.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Kaiser White's a good sign for them. It's a solid signing. He signed on a very team-friendly deal and whatnot, and yeah, they got other holes. They got Will Hernandez, who I like. That was another good signing by Arizona, and
Yeah, yep.
it's really just that secondary is just rough, and Hernandez helps that interior offensive line. That's another huge need, but they're off to a good start.
Yeah. I mean, every team's gonna go through ups and downs, but I think the talks of trading DeAndre and Kyler being out for half the season is just gonna really decimate that team. So there's not much to talk about with the Arizona Cardinals, honestly, in my eyes. Um, they just haven't really done anything, and I don't know their cap situation. I don't sit there and study caps or whatever, but let's bounce down to the Atlanta Falcons. One big maybe it could be big, I guess you could say. The trade for Jonnu Smith. Uh, we touched base on it, but like we said, him and Kyle Pitts, man, it could be a tandem. And like you stated, Kyle Pitts might play more of a receiver role in that offense. And obviously Jesse Bates. They did sign Tyler Heineke. We didn't touch base on that. I actually do like that. Heineke has proved that he can come in a in a pinch if you need him, and $10 million for a backup quarterback. It's not terrible. It's not great. It's not terrible. I don't think it's a bad signing by them. Didn't they sign? Who did they sign? Was Lindstrom with them, or is that who they signed?
Oh, crap. Corey
Um,
Lindstrom.
yeah, Chris Lindstrom. Chris.
Chris Lindstrom.
Yeah, that I mean, offensive guard. Obviously, that team has a lot of holes, but it has a lot of weapons on offense. The defense isn't the worst. It's not the best, but obviously the big factor is your quarterback situation, right? Um, it's one of them situations of where do they go? Do they try and draft one? And it's just it's like it's one of them situations of what's gonna happen in Atlanta? Are they gonna ride it out, see what happens? Maybe try and get a high draft pick next year for a quarterback, or but they did bolster defense and their offensive line got some more weapons for whoever is the quarterback for that team with Johnny Smith, and so there's not much news there. Nothing that we haven't already covered, honestly. What else we got? Baltimore. You can speak on this. We actually just talked about it. They haven't done really anything. So
No, no, we haven't done anything. Hopefully, we have Rocky Sin coming in for a visit. That's a possibility. I'd be happy with that signing. With Peters gone and everything, I think that it would be a really good sign to be able to get Rocky Sin and give us something in free agency.
no, I actually, you being a Ravens fan, I wanted to ask you this. I was actually thinking about it. I mean, do you think maybe if say Marcus Peters doesn't get any offers anywhere, do you think maybe he comes back on that team friendly deal at a very cheap rate? He comes back and plays for Baltimore.
I don't see why he wouldn't. Honestly, I think that him and Marlon played like a really good 1-2 punch, and I think they complemented each other really well. With Marlon kind of being the shutdown guy, and Marcus being the guy that is aggressive and goes for the interception. Sometimes a team detriment, but that's is what it is. But I think there's a good chance that Marcus Peters could come back to Baltimore.
I agree. I agree. Uh, I mean, like, there's not much with the Ravens. The Bills, obviously, they re-signed Jordan Poyer. Good on them, keeping at least one of their safeties there. I know we talked also. Our draft board's definitely going to be changing come time with we do another mock draft because there's been just so many changes everywhere that we liked our draft initially, but now with the changes, definitely a big change coming when we do our next mock draft in the upcoming days, which I'm sure it'll be soon with the free agency dying down like it has. Um, the Bills, not much really. Carolina Panthers, obviously we touch base with Von Bell, but they did get some veteran presence in Andy Dalton at the QB. They ended up getting Hayden Hurst, which I actually like that pick, and then Miles Sanders, obviously another big one if they do go and get a quarterback, which obviously it's pretty much the lock of the century, I would think. But who knows? We've seen crazier thing happen. But I do like that they're. Granted, they traded away DJ Moore, but they did bring in Hayden, and they got Miles Sanders in the backfield. So, I mean, they got something. I mean, they're not. We're not talking about the best tight end in the league and the best running back in the league, but they at least have something.
Yeah, they're slowly trying to build their team, and it mainly starts on the offensive side of the ball because Deontay Foreman, he's gone. We'll talk about him here in a little bit, but yeah, well, we already covered him actually.
Yeah,
Um,
we did. I think so. Yeah, in the last video.
yeah,
Did we?
Deontay,
I can't remember.
he just signed with the Bears. Did we like kind of glance through that, or we haven't got to the Bears?
No, we're
Good
actually going
lord,
to the Bears next, so we'll roll right into it. So.
that's right. Yeah, alphabetical order, Steve. It's not hard. But no, you lose Deontay Foreman, which I thought he was going to resign with the Panthers. He didn't. You go ahead and get Sanders and Hayden Hurst and just try and you already traded your own receiver, so that's another position on the offense they got to work on. But they're getting there. They're trying to get pieces. So
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. And moving on to the Bears, obviously the trade that we just mentioned, DJ Moore's with the Bears now. They got a pretty nasty receiving core. If they all work, if they work together and Justin Fields has some time to throw the ball and he can get that ball to him, and that brings you right to Nate Davis. I really like that signing for them. I think that he can add a little fucking gritty down there in the trenches, and hopefully that and we all know how I feel about Ohio State and Ohio State quarterbacks. I don't think they're good. I don't think they'll ever will be good. But Justin Fields is talented. He makes plays with his feet. I mean, he's tell last year that I think it was last year the meme was going around about hey Justin, I'm wide open, and he said screw it, I'm taking it myself. Um, so hopefully, hopefully he can get into more of a passer and find. I mean, they got Robert Tunyon. They just signed him on a 1 year deal. They got Claypool. They got DJ Moore and what's that other receiver they have down there?
Oh, Mooney.
Yeah, Mooney. So I mean, he got weapons, that's for sure. Obviously, Tremaine Edmonds, we touched base on that. I'm not gonna talk about that again. T.J. Edwards, we touched base on that. Um, the other one is once again, like you mentioned, Donta Foreman. That's a good signing for them. I like Donta. I've always been a Donta fan, so I think that them signing him, I mean, it gives them a running back in their backfield that is, as long as he stays. Obviously, Dante's been, he's had his ups, he's had his downs, and he's not Adrian Peterson by any means, and he's not Jonathan Taylor. But I mean, they have some consistency back there. I think. What's your thoughts on Dante going there, and do you think that it's a good fit? Because I mean, when you look at the Chicago Bears, other than Matt Forte, and obviously going way back Walter Payton, but that you never looked at the Bears as that like running team. They've been like do just enough on offense and just smother you on defense.
Yeah, I think it's a fair assessment. They had Thomas Jones there for a bit, and then moved on to Forte and all that. But they've always kind of like past in recent years. I like David Montgomery. He's a solid back, but he's not that true feature feature back. And then you go and you get a guy like Deontay Foreman and pair him up with Khalil Herbert out of Virginia Tech, and I think they got a nice little 1-2 punch there. They're both um, Deontay's more of the power back, and then
Yeah, right.
yeah, and then Herbert he's a more of a shifty guy. So I think they're putting the pieces around them. If they finish up that offensive line just a little more, give it a little more touch up, and if the Bears aren't successful, then you can start looking at Justin Fields and be like, yeah, what are you doing?
Right, absolutely.
Because they're getting there, man. They look good on paper.
Yeah, they do. And I mean, at the end of the day, you don't want your quarterback taking hits all game. I mean, that's what happens. That's what happened to him last year. He got hurt and ended up being done for the rest of the season. And I like to see the Bears actually do something to be a force to be reckoned with. Uh, Moving on to the Bengals, obviously the big one, Orlando Brown. Good on them, man. Good on them. I I think I know your thoughts, but I want you to give everyone listening your thoughts on that Orlando Brown signing, because man, what a great signing by them.
That was a really good signing. I loved Orlando Brown. His dad played for the Ravens there for a long time, and ended up drafting his son, which is really cool. He wanted Alex. He wanted to be a left tackle, get left tackle money, which is understandable business decision. Played well for the Chiefs on the left side, and yeah, the Bengals. That was probably their arguably, other than maybe cornerback, their biggest position of need. And
Yeah.
yeah, they filled it in a big way. They got Pratt back, so yeah, the Bengals they're making some moves as well that are going to bolster that team and get that team right.
Yeah, I mean they're filling that position to keep their franchise quarterback upright, and what better way than going and getting Orlando Brown? I mean, I absolutely love it.
They're also saying that Jonah Williams is requesting a trade possibly.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Okay, little inside
So
information.
yeah, they were
Okay.
saying after they signed Brown that there was a possibility that Lyle Collins was going to be released or traded, and then a day later, it was released that Jonah Williams, their former left tackle, presumably, um, their former left tackle was requesting a trade, which I thought from when we were doing the draft that he was going to kick inside the guard anyway. But apparently he's requested a trade. Don't know how true that is, but
Yo,
that's what the rumor
Pittsburgh,
mill is
reach out,
saying.
dog. Reach out.
Need an offensive tackle.
Reach out, see what they're looking for. Let's get on down to the Browns here, which actually me and you both were completely shocked. We just noticed this that Juan Thornhill signed with the Browns. That's a pretty big one there for them. Obviously, the Browns. are the Browns. They
They are.
you don't know what you're gonna get. Like on paper, that team could look like the sure front runner to be the best team in the league. You can't stop them, and somehow the Browns do Brown things, and they are at the bottom of the pack per usual. I really like the Juan Thornhill signing though. I think that really helps that. I mean, their secondary is pretty damn good, but I do like Thornhill going to the Cleveland Browns. I mean, they don't have much news, no big names like obviously Dalvin Tomlinson, but like nothing that you're like, oh damn, that might have leapfrogged them to that next level they need to be at. What else we got? Cowboys. Cowboys been doing some stuff. I really like that they brought back Van Der Esch. It's hard to see Leighton anywhere else but a Cowboys jersey, to be honest.
Yeah, agreed.
He, he's just your solid linebacker. He's gonna do it what needs done, and that's just what he is. He's not Michael Parsons, but he plays his role well. And honestly, the big one and is the Stephon Gilmore trade. Uh, Obviously, this isn't Stephon Gilmore from 5 years ago, but Stephon Gilmore and Diggs paired side by side. I really like that. I mean, I think that really helps that defense having that veteran corner on the opposite side that still has been playing very well. Um, does it make that team a quote unquote contender? I don't know. I mean, it. I guess it depends on what Dak you get each week, right? Do you get turnover machine Dak, or do you get 400 yard and 4 touchdowns in the first half Dak? So it's like one of them situations of you. It definitely helps that defense. I don't think it hurts them by any means, and they didn't give up hardly anything for Stephon. So I mean, what's your thoughts on Stephon Gilmore going there? And honestly, one other thing I want to say is I think Stephon going there, it takes a lot of the pressure off of him being the true number one corner in the system.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it gives them like a 1A, 1B cornerback duo that can play really well together. I like it. I think it's a low risk trade. I don't remember exactly what they gave up. It wasn't a first, second, or third. It wasn't anything like that. So I think it benefits the Colts. They're trying to sell high because he's getting older. He played well, but he's getting older. So the Cowboys are kind of in win now mode. So it
Yeah,
makes sense. Yeah.
yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. And I'll be honest, I'm surprised the Dallas Cowboys weren't more involved in free agency. I really thought that they would have been.
They usually are. Yeah, usually they're interviewing everybody and signing a lot of people, but not this year.
Yeah, right. The Denver Broncos. I really like what SP is doing up there. He's trying to get that team right. Obviously, we touched on McGlinchey, but they went out and they got P Ryan, which I mean, me and you, we see P Ryan twice a year, and I, whew, I like that signing. I think that's a solid signing by them, and it gives them. I mean, whenever Joe Mixon went down, P Ryan showed that he could be all three downs. And
Yeah.
and looking at his contract, 2 years, 7.5 million. I mean, that's pennies, honestly, if you think about it. So I really like that signing. The one signing that we were confused on, obviously, we talked about the Ben Powers. We touched base on that. But the thing that we were confused on was how much money they paid Zach Allen. And I kind of want your insight on what they were thinking, what they seen. I mean, to me, I just don't quite get it. But yeah, I kind of want to hear your insight on it because there's some things that I can't say on this video, so I'm gonna let you take this one over because I know what I want to say, but I just can't say it because it's mind blowing to me, honestly.
Maybe they watched film on him and they just saw something that they really liked. I mean, he's not a complete scrub. Don't get me wrong. He's pretty much been mediocre his whole career, and last year was like his real big breakout year. So I don't really. They had to have seen something that they really liked. I don't know. That one was definitely a head scratcher for me, especially when I seen what was it, 32 million guaranteed or something
Yeah,
like that.
45 million over 3 years, 32 million guaranteed.
Yeah, like that's a lot of money for a guy that hasn't really done much, especially on a team like Arizona where, they're a bad team. So I mean, like defensively, they're not that great. So it's like you'd think he would stand out or something, but no, I'm shocked by this one, man. I don't, I got nothing for you.
Yeah. I mean, we kind of talked about it. It's just one of them situations. Just like I'm just glad that he got signed when he did, and it didn't destroy the defensive end market where players with bigger names that are like, "Yo, wait a minute, do you see what I've been doing? Like, where's my money
Prove
at?"
us wrong. He might prove us wrong and make us both look like idiots. That's possible. He might ball out and get 15 sacks next year. Who
Yeah,
knows? But
you're right. You're 100% right. And honestly, at that kind of money, I hope he does. I really do.
I hope for the Denver Broncos he does for that kind of money.
I really do. Detroit Lions, they've made moves. Obviously, they brought in David Montgomery. Not a ton. I do obviously. Cam Sutton, 3 years, 33 million. Great deal for the Detroit Lions to bring in a corner like that, and I think it sets them up perfectly to bring in Christian Gonzalez at that pick that they have, and just really have two. As long as Christian Gonzalez plays to his potential, have two really really good corners. So that's a good signing by them, I believe. And nothing but love for Cam. I obviously a lot of Steeler fans they hate the world because they didn't re-sign him and this and that. And I mean, I like Cam Sutton. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, I don't know. Cam Sutton to me wasn't that guy. He had a lot of ups and downs. Trust me, I watch him week in and week out, and a lot of people want to talk about, oh well, this and that, and he had this. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, I think he was ranked like 23rd in the league in coverage for a corner. Which, if that's your starting corner, I'm sorry, but you don't want to be down there. I mean, obviously, not every corner's top 1 and 2, but you don't want him to be down that low. So, but good signing by Detroit. I like what they're doing. I honestly, I really hope Detroit turns the page. And this year they come out and they pick up where they left off last year and they just go in. I really hope that's what happens. Is there any other signings for Detroit that stand out? I mean, they got Isaiah Buggs, good depth filler there.
Montgomery will play like the Jamal Williams role.
Yeah, right. With Williams leaving, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I like Emmanuel Mosley too. I thought that was a solid signing by them, cornerback.
One of them. That's one of them deals where it's like 1 year, 6 million. What do we have to lose? It's just like it's a low risk with a high reward possibility. So hopefully MCDC gets that team right and picks up where they left off. Like I said, and they come out and they're just balling. Obviously, we've stated it in numerous of videos that they just need their offense scored 36 points last year. Defense gave up 37, so their defense just needs to only give up 35. so I don't know. Time will tell. I mean, I'm excited. I can't wait for the draft. I really am excited for that. But I'm ready for the regular season to start. I really am.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I'm hoping the Lions can, like you said, build off last year and get that defense right, man, and just start to be a real contender and not a laughing stock.
I was just about to say laughing stock. Green Bay Packers, I'm not going to even really say anything. They haven't done really anything, but we will touch base on the whole Aaron Rodgers thing. Obviously, they're just waiting on Green Bay to figure out what they want compensated for, and he's going to the Jets. And we did touch base on it, and honestly, I love A-Rod, and I mean, I hope it does get done. Time for a new era. Hopefully Jordan Love does do something out there, and because if he doesn't, that city might explode. That city might go nuts. I mean, there's not many franchises that can be that is blessed with that many years of back-to-back great quarterbacks, Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers. So it'll be insane if Jordan Love comes out and does what both those quarterback does, and it just keeps raining quarterbacks in Green Bay. And if that's the case, Pittsburgh needs to hit them up and and steal whatever quarterback they draft next, because somehow these dudes have it figured out.
Yeah, man, the Packers they're in a unique spot, but I mean, he looked a lot better in the few chances he had last year. He looked a lot better. He looked a lot more poised. He's always was real timid in the pocket, and Jordan Love, maybe he's one of them guys, kind of like Aaron Rodgers had to do. He sat behind Brett Favre. Maybe it was one of those deals, and he just sat and became more poised and comfortable and got up to speed with everything. And maybe he'll break out next year. That'd be cool. But it also, I don't mind seeing Aaron Rodgers go to the Jets either. I think that'd be good for the Jets. I think it'd be good for the Packers and good for Aaron.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's one of them situations where it's at the end of an era of A-Rod in Green Bay, and obviously Aaron Rodgers. I'm not saying Aaron Rodgers going back to the back-to-back MVP. I mean, and granted, that was only 3 years ago, so it's not or 2 years ago. It's not unlikely, but I mean, obviously everyone slows down, getting in age, but yeah, I mean, I like to see A-Rod in a different setting, because I think that water's poisoned up there, for him and that organization. I mean, obviously they're on good terms, but I just think that there's more behind the scenes. Allegedly, I don't want chastised over saying that, oh, it's tainted up there, but yeah, I mean, I hope the best for A-Rod, and I'd like to see me personally. I want to see him play a couple more years or a year, just because I'm a big Aaron Rodgers fan. So that's more why I'm like, come on, get this deal done. I want to see him play again.
Yeah, me too. I want to see Aaron Rodgers continue to play. I love Aaron Rodgers. Always been a big Aaron Rodgers fan. He's just a magician with the football, and I feel like he was used differently last year than we're accustomed to. Like I
Right.
just felt like, yeah, I just felt like the offense and everything was just they were just off. Like it just you didn't see the vintage throws, and like every once in a while you would, but like the big plays that you needed, they're handing the ball off.
Yeah.
It's like that's not the Green Bay Packers. Like
Right.
that's just not.
That's not what we've
You
been
put the ball in
accustomed to
Aaron's
for the
hands.
last 15 years of Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, and once Watson started to kind of catch on a little bit, they kind of got the wheels turning. And then Dalbs got hurt, and everything just kind of went out of whack again. So I don't know. I think a change of scenery would be good.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. Moving on, Houston Texans. They've been doing a lot, with the free agency. The big one, obviously, Shaq Mason getting traded, to the Texans, which I think is a huge. What else did they do? Oh, Robert Woods signing there, Jimmy Ward signing there, uh, MJ Stewart. I mean, they've been doing a lot in the free agency, and at the end of the day, they're the Texans. I'm not sure what their route's going to be, because that team has had pieces year in and year out since they've been in the league. And I mean, we're talking. We had Arian Foster at one point. We had Andre Johnson. We had Mario Williams. Like, we've had all these players. It just seems like they can't put it together at the right time, and the Texans are the Texans, unfortunately. But that's a team that I've always like in the background kind of rooted for, because I want someone new, someone different. Like, obviously Steelers, I want, obviously, being my favorite team, but if it can't be, I want someone completely left field, like that hasn't been that good of a team in years, and the Texans are one of them teams. The Detroit Lions. I mean, I like them underdog teams that people are like, oh, they're just going to do the same stuff. One thing you'll never hear me say is I hope the Cleveland Browns do good because it's the Cleveland Browns, but it's just what it is. But the Texans have been making moves. I mean, nothing blockbuster by any means, but I mean, I feel that they've definitely gotten better on both sides of the ball, offensive and defensively. Uh, I think the Shaq Mason trade's obviously the big one. Um, I really like Shaq Mason and them trading him from getting him from the Buccaneers. It's not like they gave up a ton, and it anchors that guard position. At least it's one piece because I know when we did our mock draft, we talked about all the holes that they have and different positions that they need, and bringing in a solid guard like that, I think really bolsters that line of scrimmage, and they can put their focus elsewhere come draft time. What's your thoughts on with them bringing in Robert Woods and trading for Shaq Mason, and obviously bringing in Jimmy Ward? Obviously, Jimmy Ward isn't Richard Sherman or he's not Marlon Humphrey, but Jimmy Ward is a solid cornerback that the Houston Texans got beat like a drum on the outside last year. So, what's your thoughts on the players that they've brought in so far in free agency, and do you see them maybe trying to make them another trade, or do you see them maybe trying to go a different route in the draft? What's your thoughts on that?
I think with the Texans, a lot of the time in free agency, a lot of these players they won't sign with certain places just because of the team or where they're located and stuff. Like with Watson with the Browns, that's why the Browns had to give him the worst contract in the history of sports.
Yeah.
And so a lot of teams they don't get much.
I'm sorry. That was good. That was funny. Oh shoot.
No, they give the worst contract in the history of sports, and they just nuke the quarterback market for an eternity. And but some teams just have to do that. Nobody wants to go in their current state. Nobody wants to go play for the Texans. You know, like nobody wants to play for the Texans. Their ownership stinks. You know, like nobody wants to go to the Texans. I'm hoping D'Amico Ryans can change the the atmosphere there and be more players be more receptive of going to Houston. But they're patching up. You know, they're doing some patchwork there in Houston, and they're getting some pieces. But I think they're really going to hit hard in the draft. I think the Chiefs, I believe, were actually trying to get a trade going between them and the Texans for Laramie Tunsil, their all-pro left tackle. Which, if I'm the Texans and I'm planning on taking a quarterback at number 2, I don't know why in the heck I would get rid of their, or my all-pro left tackle.
Right.
Yeah, you get, Bryce Young or whoever, and you just trade away his blindside protector. I mean, he has 1 year left on his contract, so it's like you have the most cap in the league. Maybe sign him. I don't know. Makes sense to me, but yeah, that's kind of what the rumor mill is with that trade wise. But I think a lot of the positions, hopefully, they hit the draft properly. But I think a lot of the positions will be addressed through the draft.
I couldn't agree more with that. Honestly, I really can't. I mean, you hit every aspect of it, really. The Indianapolis Colts, and I know we didn't touch base on it. It's not something we're gonna spend a lot of time on. They made some signings, but the big one, Matt Gay, 4 years, $22 million kicker.
Lord,
I mean,
it's a lot of money for a kicker, bro.
I don't even know what to say, if I'm being honest. I love the Colts, honestly. I never was really like a Colts hater, but I was never like loved the Colts. Like I never hated them, never loved them. But after continually watching the Pat McAfee show, like P-Mac kind of like made me like the Colts. Like I don't know what he has that about him. Like he kind of made me like the Colts, and signing Matt Gay to $22 million. I don't know if they plan on kicking a lot of field goals. I mean, I'm not sure. This is a lot of money, man. Like If it's Justin Tucker, all right, bet. Like, but man, I mean, what do you think the Colts were thinking? Like, oh, we're signing Matt. Oh, this is our guy. Like, Matt Gay, bro. We'll give you $22 million. Like, what do you think that they were thinking? Like with that signing, I mean, are they anticipating like kicking like 140 field goals and not scoring touchdowns? Like, I just don't understand. And I wish I had more insider information or something because just seeing that just kind of dumbfounded me. Uh, that and I don't know. Maybe you can make light of it and make me realize what they're thinking or what they're doing, or maybe you're completely at a loss like I am.
Well, it seems like for the past few years, the Colts have been on a kicker carousel. Like they just, like they're just going in a loop. They're just throwing anything at the wall, seeing if it sticks. And I felt like Chase McLaughlin played well for them last year. You know, as far as a kicker goes, I mean, shit. But I thought McLaughlin played well, and I thought he was going to be their long-term kicker. But no, apparently it's they like Matt Gay more, which I mean, Matt Gay's a damn good kicker. I mean, obviously, but yeah, it's just that contract really surprising.
All right, I'm just making sure that I wasn't missing something in the reading between the lines or something here because it just seemed kind of crazy to see that kind of contract go out for a kicker that's not named Justin Tucker.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Well, I wish there was more to talk about the Colts because, like I said, Pat turned me into a Colts fan, and I like watching what the Colts do. And I honestly don't even know if I'm a Colts fan. I think I just like seeing his reaction. If I'm being honest, I
I'll
like.
tell you, I'm rooting for the Colts. Yeah, I do. I like the Colts.
Uh, Jacksonville Jaguars. Obviously, they use their franchise tag on Evan Ingram. Uh, Roy Robertson Harris. That's their big signing on that D line, which it's not a bad signing. 10 mil over 3 years. And obviously you have the dogs up front. And I know there was talks about potentially trading Josh Allen, which I really hope that they don't trade him unless it's to Pittsburgh. Um, that's just me being biased, if I'm being honest. um, but and obviously got Trayvon there. But other than that, the Jacksonville Jaguars, it looks honestly like they're going to be building through the draft.
Yeah, it's looking that way. I think the Jags are gonna after losing Shaq Griffin, he may get brought back. Unlikely, but yeah, I mean they got some holes to fix.
Yeah,
The
right.
second, particularly in the secondary and the interior of the offensive line, but I don't think it's anything that's going to be detrimental. I mean, obviously they need to fix those issues, but
Right.
I think the Jags they're close. I mean, they're close. It all depends on how T Law is going to play.
Yeah. And you're 100% right. They seem like a team that's right on the cusp of breaking into that next level of Jacksonville Jaguars going to be a good team for a long time. Like they're a good team, but like after last year, I think they finally got some footing, and it showed. Obviously, they got in the playoffs. They came back from 21 down, ended up winning the game, and then ultimately losing to the Chiefs, who won the Super Bowl, obviously. But they played a good game against the Chiefs, so I think they're right there. They need a few more pieces, but I think they're close, like you said. I think they're very close. And right, the next team up, moving right along, is the Chiefs. Which man, them getting Jawan Taylor, whoo, what a
Much needed.
signing on them. I know we touched base on it, but man, what a signing on them. That Patrick Mahomes got to be tickled pink. I mean, most teams, and we see it every year. They have their guy, which obviously Patrick Mahomes has been their guy and that guy for years, but get him that protection. And they were like, you know what? Let's just go get Jawan Jones. Fuck it. I probably shouldn't have said that, but it'll be all right. I'll put a little bleep right there. I'll record a bleep in there so that's not in there. But Juwan, that's huge. And then like we were talking, the Mike Edwards signing, very cheap and not a bad signing at all for that defense, who had four rookies at cornerback and on DB side of it. So not much to talk about with the Chiefs other than them obviously protecting Patrick Mahomes. I don't think. I mean, you can repeat exactly what I just said about Jamon Taylor, obviously, but other than that, I mean, it's Jawan Taylor. It's a huge signing, and Patrick Mahomes is happy. And what better way than having the best quarterback in the league than being happy and coming off of a Super Bowl victory, trying to run it back?
Yeah, absolutely. You lose Wiley and Orlando Brown, and it's like, okay, we need to, obviously offensive tackle. We've got to get some guys in there, and they go and get Jawan Taylor. We talked about it in the our last video, but yeah, he's a guy that I figured I'm coming out of Florida. I was like, he's left tackle. Ended up moving to right for the Jags, and it sounds like the way they're paying him, sounds like he's going to be playing left tackle for the Chiefs. So I think it was a good signing. They definitely needed it after losing Brown and Wiley.
Absolutely, absolutely. Moving on to the Raiders. I just want to give a shout out to the Raiders and a big thank you for taking Robert Spillane. Big ups on you guys for taking him out of Pittsburgh, because for some reason Pittsburgh thought he was the best coverage linebacker in the league, and that dude looked like Lima Sweet trying to catch a football. So, thanks, Vegas. Greatly appreciated. Opened the door for some players that we're going to talk about in a minute. But, yeah, thanks. Obviously, Jimmy G, we covered that. They brought in Jacoby Myers, which, not bad. I mean, I think obviously Jacoby being next to Devontae, he's just gonna have to catch the ball basically because Devontae's Devontae. So I think obviously the big factor here is them trading away Darren Waller, which was very shocking to me. What's your thoughts on that trade? Do you think what do you think made them trade him away? And I mean, do you think that it benefited that team? Do you think it hurts that team? Because I mean, Darren Waller is like another receiver. It's kind of like Mark Andrews, obviously when healthy. But what's your thoughts on the Darren Waller trade?
That's a bittersweet trade for both sides because with the Giants, it's like, which Darren Waller are you getting? Are you getting, or if you're getting healthy Darren Waller, like, you know, you got your stud tight end that you've been looking for quite a while now. But if you get the always banged up, on the trainer's table, Darren Waller, then that's, they gave up the 100th pick for him. So it's not like they gave up a lot
Just
by
say
any
it.
stretch.
Just say it, dude. They didn't give up a damn thing.
They didn't really give a shit. Yeah, they didn't really give a shit, man. They gave them, what was that, third round? To the third
Yeah,
round?
third round.
Yeah, they gave up a third round pick. And yeah, I mean it's low risk, high reward type of trade. And as for the Raiders, I mean it's just the Raiders doing what the Raiders usually do. Let's just say what it is. It's Josh McDaniels dismantling another team. Nothing too surprising. But it's something we've all grown accustomed to, I guess. Am I right, Denver? Yeah,
Yeah.
man. I don't know. I don't know why they traded him for freaking nothing, but yeah, I think it was probably mutual.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
I would have to say it was mutual. I mean, you almost have to think that it's mutual without having any context. But man, for a third round pick, bro, we're talking about Darren Waller, dude. Like, this dude's a problem when he's on the field.
Yeah, I mean, you can make the argument that he's on the wrong side of 30 now or whatever, blah blah blah. But if he's healthy, then the Raiders are they're gonna have egg on their face, and not that they'll care because they're the Raiders. But
Yeah,
I mean, Brian Daboll, he he's gonna be moving Waller around a lot, and I think Daboll's gonna find ways to utilize him, and that'll be exciting for anybody who's a Giants fan.
absolutely. Couldn't agree more. The Chargers, they haven't done much, but they did get Eric Kendricks and Trey Pipkins. Two solid signings, very solid signings for the Chargers. That's another team that I think that they're just looking to build through the draft. Um, Chargers are kind of like the Ravens in a sense. Obviously, they've made big signings and big uh, trades during the offseason, but for the most part, they're kind of low key and just kind of sit back and they build through the draft. So I mean, good on them. Eric Kendricks signing a very cheap deal, and it gives them that linebacker, and then obviously right tackle Trey Pipkins. That's gives them that line. They need a little help on the line. Obviously, they just need their defense to be healthy, and I think that team is a force. Um, but for some reason, the Chargers can't be healthy at the end of the season, and it's very unfortunate because I love Justin Herbert, and I want to see the Chargers be good, man. Like all them years of Antonio Cromartie and Chris Chambers and Philip Rivers and LaDainian Tomlinson, Antonio Gates. The list just goes on forever.
Yeah.
And I just want the Chargers to be good, dude. Like, I just want to see them do good, man. Like, I'm not saying go to the Super Bowl, but damn, come on, Chargers. Like, bro, just come on. Like,
Be better.
Yeah, be better. Like, if I could plug in a Chris Berman, come on, man. Like, that's all I want, dude. That's all I want.
Man, yeah, that's the Chargers' biggest problem is health because they have all of the pieces at all three stages of the defense and the offense. Like they have all of the pieces. Defensive line can use a little bit of help, but whatever. But for the most part, you get a healthy Chargers team. I mean, fully healthy, that that team can do some serious damage, and it's amazing after thinking about all them guys you named, and there's so many more. You know, that late 2000 Charger team. How did you not win a Super Bowl with that team? It's crazy, and
Right.
we're seeing it kind of like a repeat.
Yeah. Once again, they're back to that. They're the same way, and it's unfortunate, man. Like I said, I really want to see them do well. I like the Chargers, and I think the thing that draws me to Chargers is them baby blue, powder blue uniforms. It's just those things are so goaded. But like, I mean, they had some of my favorite players of all time. I mean, LaDainian, Antonio Gates. I mean, it's crazy. Antonio Cromartie, one of my all-time favorite corners. Like, you just sit there and just ask how is this possible that you cannot get over that hump to get to that next level with the talent that you have on these teams. Just how? So, um, um, Chargers, like I said, the two signings really haven't done very much. The Rams, obviously, the trade, Jalen Ramsey. We're not gonna sit here and beat a dead horse. We already know what happened there. They gave up a tight end that's had 3 career receptions. Blah blah. The rest is history. And roll right into the Miami Dolphins. Obviously, Jalen Ramsey trade. They re-signed Raheem Mostert. They brought in your boy, your favorite backup quarterback of all time, Mike White.
Yep, G unit.
the the Dolphins really haven't done a whole lot. They traded Gasecki, obviously, or no, didn't trade him. Sorry, let me backtrack. Gasecki left and signed with the New England Patriots for actually a really cheap deal. Um, but we'll touch base on that when we get to the Patriots. The Vikings, we talked about it. Obviously, Josh Oliver going there. Good on him. Byron Murphy is the big one that stands out to me. I think that's a really good signing. Obviously, losing Pat P to the Steelers, him signing Pittsburgh. But like we talked, I like Byron Murphy. I like that signing, and that's a hole that team needs to fill, and it's obviously a problem for that team. So good on them. I like that signing a lot. Um, any other names that are big stand out for you for the Minnesota Vikings?
Well, we talked about Josh Oliver the other day, so I'm not going to
Yeah.
really touch on that. I like the Garrett Bradbury. I like them re-signing him. He's a really good young center, and also Marcus Davenport. Marcus Davenport's
Oh yeah,
healthy.
I'm sitting here actually looking at it, and I didn't even bring it up. Yeah, Marcus Davenport. That's an excellent signing.
Yeah, when he's healthy, man, he's a hell of a game wrecker. It's just his health and consistency. That was his problem in New Orleans. Sometimes he looked like an all pro, and other times he would just kind of disappear for stretches. So that could be a very good signing for them.
I agree 100%. Yeah, so I mean, not very much touch base on the obviously the Vikings, and moving on to the New England Patriots, which we touched base. Obviously, Gasecki signing there. Kind of let you take over the Patriots signings. Let you get your get back because I already know what you're gonna say. So I'll let you get your get back after my comment about Mike White. The New England Patriots.
Well, they brought back Jabril Peppers, which was a really good signing.
Damn, he signed cheap too. 2 years, 11 million. Oh, wow.
Yeah, he did. He was kind of playing a hybrid role for them, which that's kind of his bread and butter. He's a hybrid type of guy. He's a downhill guy that can do a little bit of everything. So that was a good re-sign for them. Bringing back Jonathan Jones, that was also a really really good signing for them to kind of keep that secondary intact. Um, Obviously, too, with the retirement of McCourty, kind of
Right.
stinks, but
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, bringing Peppers back was solid. Bringing Jones back was solid. So that'll keep the secondary somewhat intact, but it's still a big loss to lose, somebody like Devin McCourty. But man, I got to tell you, New England Patriots swinging for the fences. They signed your boy Corvette, Juju Smith-Schuster. Man, I got to know your thoughts.
Oh, Corvette,
TikTok,
Corvette.
Corvette.
The TikTok monster is doing his dances in New England now, which I don't think Bill Belichick's gonna let happen. So, uh, I didn't care that he left Pittsburgh. Didn't think. I think Antonio Brown made him better than what he actually was, and he thought he was worth a bunch of money, and it showed that he wasn't. He went to Kansas City. Good on him. He got a Super Bowl. Happy for him. Congrats, Corvette, Corvette. But he finally got his, I guess, quote unquote, big contract, 33 million. Um, to me, I know I put out a meme saying, "Congratulations on the New England Patriots keeping their streak alive of not signing an actual receiver." Since Julian Edelman is kind of a low blow. Sorry about that, New England fans. But
I can hear Boston Connor screaming at you
oh
right
yeah,
now.
Boston Connor. If Boston Connor got a hold of this, he'd be snapping. But good on him, man. I mean, I don't. It's not that I hate the guy personally. I just don't think that he's a true number one. He's more of a. He's a number three. He's that's just what he is. Or you have to have a guy like Antonio Brown or a Devontae Adams, or
Yeah,
you
yeah.
have to have that player that teams fear for him to excel. So New England signing him, I just don't see it being any different than any other receiver that has been there since Gronk has gone, and I just don't see him doing what they think that he's gonna do. Or yeah, he showed out in the Super Bowl. It was probably his best game all year for Kansas City, but I don't know. I don't see unless the Patriots go out and get a DeAndre Hopkins. I know there's wakes in the water about potential trade for him. Then I think Juju could excel. If he had a DeAndre Hopkins on the other side of him, I 100% think that he could be great. But other than that, I just don't see him being a true number one. And I obviously him being that guy in New England, he's going to get his touches, but once again, it's another health factor. I mean, how many times did he get hurt in Kansas City? So it's one of them situations where good on him. I'm happy for him, but he's still Corvette. He's still TikTok boy. He's still not that guy, and that's basically where the cookie crumbles.
Yeah, they also brought in like Gesicki, Joe. Um, good God, Bill Belichick is trying to recreate the Rob Gronkowski, Aaron Hernandez deal, and he tried to, a couple years ago too with Johnny Smith, and that didn't work out too well. So he went ahead and got Gesicki, so he can go back to using them two tight end sets again. It might work out. It's hard to see because Juju played a lot of slot, and I have a feeling that Gesicki is going to be in the slot, so that may push Juju to the outside.
Right.
It's going to be interesting to see how Belichick uses it, but at least he's getting some weapons around, Mac Jones or Bailey Zappi or whoever the hell's playing quarterback for New England next year.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah, I agree with that.
yeah,
I agree.
so that's good.
At least they got a receiver that has done his due diligence, and he can be he's not just some bag boy that they picked up and was like, hey, you want to catch a football from a pro quarterback. So at least
Yeah.
at least they brought someone in, and I mean, obviously Bill Belichick loves his tight ends, and I mean, hopefully it works out for him. I mean, the dude's a mastermind, but last year it kind of seems like Bill Belichick's like, you know what, it is what it is. I've done it. I've won it all. I might go down as the best coach ever. I mean, it seems like he might be checked out, but he might come back and completely shock the world next season. And New England's back on top where they've been for so long. Which I'm gonna say this under my breath, and I hope not. But yeah. New
That's
Orleans
a tough
Saints.
division they're in.
Oh yeah, that
That's a tough
division
division.
is just that division might be the best division in the league. Honestly, I mean, you put Aaron Rodgers in that division next year. You got the Bills, you got the Jets, you got the
Dolphins, I believe, right?
Dolphins, you got the Patriots. So they
Yeah, that's
might
a hell of a division.
they might lose every single game in that division. That's a tough division to be in. And I remember, obviously, and you do too, the years that New England just ran wild through that division every single year in and year out. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be good for football if they're competitive and all four of them teams are just balling. It'd be awesome for football to have that, but only time will tell. Obviously, New Orleans Saints, obviously the big one, Derek Carr. We already touched base on that, and then the one thing I do want to touch base on is at the end of our last video, the last thing we covered was Jameis Winston and how we thought that he was going to go somewhere else. We stopped recording, and the minute we stopped recording, both of our phones went off, and Jameis Winston signed that 1 year, $8 million contract, and we both just were texting like, bro, you can't make this up. So
Oh, that sucked. That was so embarrassing.
it was the most unfortunate timing I've maybe personally in my life have seen. But good on Jameis Winston. I'm shocked to say the least. But yeah, good on him. Obviously, and they brought in Jamal Williams. So Jamal Williams signing there because obviously who knows what's going to happen with Alvin Kamara. There's no, I haven't really seen much updates about that whole situation. Hopefully, Alvin can get back on that field and play, but who knows? There's no telling what's happening with these players and what's going to go on. Obviously, it's I don't even know. I don't know if it's in court or do you know any details on that situation?
No, not really. No, no, but I do like what they're doing. Um, as far as getting DC, getting him in there, and getting Slant Monster back. Well, extending him. So that was Michael Thomas. I think that helps him too. But getting Juwan Johnson back, he's a guy that I really like. He played receiver at Oregon, but ended up kicking inside the tight end because he's a bigger guy, and he has a lot of splash plays. I think he had one against Pittsburgh last year, if I'm not mistaken,
Yeah,
when they
he
played the
did.
Saints.
Yeah, he did.
But the biggest signing for the Saints is that dude I was talking about the other day during our draft video, Storm Norton. That dude is the biggest bum I've ever watched at the offensive line position ever. I don't know why you like they're setting whoever's playing quarterback. If DC's not hurt by the time this dude gets on the field, good lord, I feel bad for anybody that's got this dude protecting him. I really do. This dude's 6'8", like 350 of just nothing.
Of a pure barn door, and the hinges are locked open. That's what Storm Norton is.
I'm telling you, man. I watched that dude get beat like a drum to the point to where I was actually watching the offensive line as opposed to anything that the offense was doing the entire game during that Chargers game. I'd never seen anything like it.
Oh, that's so unfortunate. Uh, I just, you're that big, you're that athletic, you're obviously in the league for a reason, and you're just, you're just a barn door with broken hinges because the door won't close. Like it's crazy. And honestly, I remember whenever you were texting me and you actually told me, you're like, bro, you got to go see some of this game and watch this dude. And so I turned it on, and it was just like, what is happening?
I'm going to read a quote just for the sake of it. I'm going to make it quick. He was signed by the Saints, and it says, Norton, one of the worst tackles in the league, given in 2020 and 2021, was not given much of a chance to damage the Chargers, as Foster Sherrill took over snaps for him in most of 2022. That is that is the worst assessment of any player I've ever read in my life.
Oh man, that's bad. Oh, that's bad.
Storm, I hope you're an All-Pro next year, bro. I really do. You got a lot of work to do, man.
I want to go a little off topic and some breaking news here. Fairleigh Dickinson just beat Purdue 63-58, and it is the second time in NCAA tournament history a 16 seed has beat a number 1 seed. So, shout out to Dickinson for it's definitely March, and it's definitely March Madness with all the craziness happening. But I just got the update that Purdue just got beat by the 16 seed, and Purdue is one of them teams that was a potential front runner. So, shout out to that coach of that team and having them players ready to ball. I don't know if Purdue was just overlooking them, ready to move on, but anything can happen in March Madness basketball. So, shout out to them. But let's get back on track here.
Wow.
Yeah, second time ever a 16 seed has beat a number 1 seed. I think the last year was the first time ever. March Madness ain't what it quite used to be. I mean, I know you're not huge into college basketball, but you know that I bet a lot on college basketball when it comes this time of year, and it's the years of UConn and Kentucky and UNC and Duke being your number ones, and you can almost guarantee they're going to the finals. Them years are over, man. It's actually pretty crazy. It's college basketball is interesting to watch because teams that you don't. I mean, you have powerhouse teams, but every team has a loss in the tournament this year. That you don't have the undefeated team that's just going to walk through everyone anymore. So, shout out to Dickinson beating Purdue. I would love to see a 16 seed go all the way out to the finals. Unless they meet Bama, and I hope Bama smashes them, but that's a different topic. So, moving on to the Giants. Obviously, Daniel Jones getting his big contract. The trade Darren Waller. What else did the Giants do? Oh, they signed
I like
Bobby.
the Bobby Okereke.
Yeah, Okereke. Yep, I was just about to say Okereke. Great signing on their part. Obviously, the Giants need receiver help, and they brought in Paris Campbell, and obviously we talked in the draft. They got to go receiver. That's the only thing that I can see makes sense. And Okereke, signing obviously takes away a small hole that they had in the linebacker position, and it gives them some depth back there. So it's not as much as a necessity as obviously the receiver situation. Obviously, to trade Darren Waller, I think I said that, and obviously healthy Darren Waller definitely bolsters that offense with Daniel Jones's legs, Saquon Barkley if he plays like he did last year, and then if Darren Waller can be healthy, and maybe they draft a receiver like we talked about in our mock draft video, I definitely could see some good things happen in New York, and I hope they do. For my boy Rob out of controller, shout out. Uh, One day he'll be on here. Hopefully, I can get him on here. He's a trip. So
Yes, he is.
the New York Football Jets.
Man, they got a log jam right now with the Giants. They got like a weird situation going on there with like receivers. They don't have like a clear cut number one, but they have a ton of receivers now.
They have a ton, but
So weird.
they don't have that like that guy.
Yeah, they don't have a guy that they thought that Kenny Galladay was going to be. They don't have that true number one receiver. Like they just have a bunch of number two guys. It's really interesting. It's going to be weird. It's going to be hard to figure out who's going to get the most of the targets for like fantasy purposes.
I don't even know if they have a true like all number twos. Like they might have all number threes to be honest.
Yeah, honestly, yeah.
I
Yeah,
hate to
I was
say
thinking
that,
Sterling
but
Shepard, but Sterling Shepard's he's been hurt for years now. It's just unfortunate because he's a damn good player. But
right.
yeah, with him with the injuries and stuff, who knows what kind of shape he's going to be in. So pretty much all three number three receivers.
Yeah, and like the Giants, if Daniel Jones can play like he did last year, Saquon Barkley can play like he did last year, and they can get another weapon on the outside for Daniel Jones and bolster that defense through the draft. The Giants, the Giants are moving in the right direction, to say the least, and I hope the Giants make the turn and they can get back to their winning ways because that division is tough. Obviously, Dallas, the Eagles, and the Commanders. I wanted to make sure I pronounced that right. Um, who knows what's going to happen with the Commanders? But obviously, the Eagles were just in the Super Bowl. Dallas has been on top of that, been up there in that division every year. So I mean, it's another one of them tough divisions that you almost got to win your division to make sure that you're in the playoffs because usually two teams out of that division get into the playoffs. So you're either getting a high seed or you're getting a wild card. So that's one of them situations where Giants just need. I think they need some pieces, offensive and defensively, and I think they can be right there in the talks. I really do. New York Jets obviously bringing in Alan Lazard. I think that's a great signing. I know a lot of people, Jets fans, and just haters of the whole situation with Aaron Rodgers. Not even necessarily Jets fans or Packer fans, but they think it's stupid. I think it's a great signing. Just that veteran presence. I mean, Alan Lazard isn't Calvin Johnson, but he is a veteran presence, and that team is young on offense. So I really like that. And if they do bring in Aaron Rodgers, you have a familiar face with him. So I don't think that's a bad signing whatsoever. I like that signing a lot. What's your thoughts on Alan Lazard going into that young receiving core and that obviously Brees Hall, young running back, just young all around with the offense?
I like the direction the Jets are going in. Their biggest question mark is obviously quarterback, and they can solve that problem with Aaron Rodgers. But what are they going to, give to Green Bay in return? So you get a guy like Lazard. When you got Lazard, you got Elijah Moore, you got Corey Davis, Garrett Wilson, who to me is just an absolute beast, and you got four really good to really solid receivers, and I have a feeling at least one of them will probably go in the Aaron Rodgers trade if it does fall through. I mean, if it does pull through. Um, but yeah, as far as Alan Lazard, it's not gonna hurt you any, especially if you get Aaron. Aaron really likes Lazard, not just professionally but personally, and it'll probably sign him in a large part due to Aaron as well.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree.
to kind of lure him come to New York and that. And as for Brees Hall, he's just an absolute beast. I hope he comes back healthy. The offensive line is um, needs some patchwork. Mekhi Becton needs to come back healthy and in shape, and I think they'll be fine. And I really like Quincy Williams when they re-signed him. I
Yeah,
like Quincy
yeah,
Williams. His brother Quinnen is all pro, roll tide. But Quinnen Williams is all pro defensive tackle, and yeah, those two they play great together. Quincy Williams is a very underrated off-ball linebacker, and I like watching him play.
I agree. I agree 100%. And obviously, we touched base on the Chuck Clark trade that they got for peanuts, which it
Yeah,
bolsters their secondary that much more. Uh, Philadelphia Eagles, which what a wild couple days for them. It went from we thought that they would 100% be drafting a cornerback at their first pick in the draft, and now I don't think they're drafting a cornerback until maybe the end of the fucking first round, and that's a big maybe. I mean, they obviously re-signed Bradbury, they re-signed Fletcher Cox, but cornerbacks wise, Darius Slay was out the door, and then a couple hours later, he was talking the contract, and then he got an extension. It was all in one day. I mean, many hours apart, but they re-signed Darius Slay. They got Bradbury back, and then obviously they brought in Greedy Williams. So that secondary's right back. Obviously, Chauncey Gardner Johnson's the big question. Um, what's going to happen with that? Obviously, he's linked to Denver, and I'm sure there's many other teams. Pittsburgh. Sorry, I had to clear my throat there. I wouldn't mind him next to Minka by any means, but yeah, I mean the Philadelphia Eagles aren't in a bad spot like we initially anticipated as far as defensively. So obviously, I mean they lost a big one. What's his name? He used to play for Pittsburgh, defensive
Von
tackle.
Hargrave.
Yeah, Javon Hargrave. They lost a big one up front with Javon, but they did get Fletcher Cox back, so maybe they go defensive tackle early on. Time will tell, obviously. And they got Brandon Graham back as well. So the defensive line isn't completely depleted, but the cornerback was the big one, and we really thought that they were going to be hurting, and clearly they're not. Obviously, we don't know what they're going to get from Greedy Williams, but Greedy Williams is still Greedy. He could go there and show out. I mean, they obviously have their 1 and 2 in Darius Slay and Bradbury, but Greedy Williams filling in that slot position could be a really big, turn out to be a big signing for them.
Yeah, I like the signing for Greedy. I think it's a low risk 1 year deal. He's still very young, has a lot of potential. Really liked him coming out of LSU. He's a big, lengthy corner, very athletic. I think he has a lot of potential, and I think going to Philly and being with Slay and being with Bradbury, I think that kind of gives him, you know, depending on his work ethic, it gives him some sort of guidance, some veteran leadership to maybe push him to that next level, and maybe sign a long term deal and re up with the Eagles, and they got a good corner for years to come. It's hard to say, but I agree with that though. I think that they could possibly go defensive line in the draft and go after like a Kalijah Kancey, or if Jalen Carter does in fact fall, go ahead and pair him back up with Jordan Davis like the old Georgia days. That's always a possibility. So the
Right.
Eagles, they're getting back on track. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, like I said, the Chauncey Gardner Johnson is a big concern because they might go safety with that early pick too, depending on what happens with him. Obviously, he's still a free agent. There really hasn't been any. I haven't really seen anything as far as someone offering him a contract yet, which is pretty shocking to me. But time will tell with that situation, and obviously, we're going to be doing another mock draft once the free agency it's died down a good bit. We'll probably do one in the next couple of days, actually, if you're good with it. Now that free agency's kind of ran wild, and it ran
Yeah.
its course, I wouldn't mind doing another one and maybe doing a first round and a second round. Do a first round one day, do the second round the next day. Kind of just go through the motions, and because I mean the draft's so deep that I don't think we'll have an issue whatsoever going one and first round, second round.
No. I think for the one through four, I haven't had really any issues of like scratching my head and being like, man, I don't know who's gonna go here.
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot of depth in this draft, and it's gonna be exciting. But yeah, I like what you said too. I think a guy like Brian Branch would look good in green and black. So I don't know. Time will tell.
I agree. I agree 100%. Moving on to my beloved Pittsburgh Steelers, who surprisingly have been going in on the free agency. This is 2 years in a row. I'll be honest, I'm upset about the Miles Jack getting cut. Literally a year to date after they signed him, it was the same exact day that they signed him. They cut him. I love Miles Jack. He's still young. I understand the cap. They were in some cap problems. Minka restructured and cutting Miles and so on and so forth. I'm not going to get into all that, but they re-signed Larry Ogunjobi, who I think played amazing in Pittsburgh last year. I love Larry Ogunjobi, and him not having to play all three downs is huge for him, and I think that was a great signing on their part. A jersey I will have to get, of course. I've always wanted a Patrick Peterson jersey, a Cardinals one, obviously. But now that he's a Steeler, I have to get his Pittsburgh Steeler one. Pat P is one of my all-time favorite corners, and I really like Pat P coming into Pittsburgh, a cornerback that has done it all in his career. Obviously, he's not Patrick Peterson from 5-6 years ago, but he is that veteran corner, and I think they stay true and they go get a corner at pick number 17. And basically, he can play that number 2 role. He has Minka over the top for help, and he can play that aggressive zone coverage that Pittsburgh likes to play, and that's where he excelled last year. I mean, Pat P played very well last year. I think I remember I screenshot and sent it to you. I think he was ranked like 7th in the league for cornerback rankings. So Pat P still has gas in the tank, and what a great signing by Pittsburgh. I know a lot of Pittsburgh fans are saying, "Oh, he's washed, this and that," but I mean, if you look at statistics from last year, I hate to break the news to you, Pittsburgh fans, but Pat P had a way better season than Cam Sutton. So I mean, it is what it is. This is why we're not the GM and they are, and they're in the position that they are. They've seen something in Patrick Peterson that I think, obviously, he's still got gas in the tank, and they're bringing him in. One thing I want to touch base with Patrick Peterson is the number 7 jersey. He already said he's not gonna wear. He's not gonna wear it. I know Pittsburgh fans were throwing a hissy over him wanting to wear number 7. He's gonna wear number 20. So good on him for acknowledging that's one of them numbers that in Pittsburgh that no one really is going to wear because it was Big Ben. So, a couple other signings, and Nate Herbig, I like that, and I honestly think that he might end up being the starting guard. I think he could beat out our guards we have now. He's a mauler. He's not. I mean, he's not the best guard in the league, but it's an upgrade from what we have right now, I believe. I want your thoughts, even though it's my beloved Pittsburgh Steelers. I want your thoughts on the Cole Holcomb and the Landon Roberts signings and what you see with Pittsburgh. And I'll kind of give a little insight of what I think, if you don't touch base on it, what I think that the Steelers are trying to do with those 2 signings.
I think they're trying to get back to the old school, Steelers, because they've had some up and down years. Evan Bush getting hurt and whatnot, kind of, obviously the Shazier, that tragedy, it just really threw things off. And Miles Jack, it didn't work for whatever reason. I felt like I felt like he could use another year in the system, and I think he would have been fine.
That's exactly my thoughts. But
it is what it is. But I think that they're trying to go younger at the position. I think Landon Roberts and Holcomb are both they're solid linebackers. They're not world beaters by any stretch of the imagination. But I think in that Pittsburgh defense, I think they have the potential to really thrive and come into their own and hopefully take that next step. So I think they're just trying to address the position because Pittsburgh's always been about linebacker. But I'll be honest with you, with the 33rd pick
32nd.
or the 32nd pick or the they have another second round pick. I'm trying to think which number it is.
40 something.
46.
Yes, 40 something.
Something like that. Yeah, if there's a Dion Henley or a Trenton Simpson there, one of those picks, and they decided, well, let's take a linebacker. I mean, couldn't be mad about it. So, but it fixes that we need a linebacker mentality so they can address other positions. So I think it helps a lot.
I agree 100%. And I also think if you look at uh, Landon and Cole's resume, they are two linebackers that tackle. They are tackling machines. I think whenever like I looked at Holcomb's stats last year in the past couple years, he's had over 100 something tackles. Landon obviously 100 something tackles. So I and both of them were calling the plays on defense. They were the captain. So I think that Pittsburgh's trying to go back to that. We're stopping the run first, and we're going to let our playmakers on the back end stop the passes. And I think that's the route that they're looking for. Obviously, Devin Bush, Robert Splain, Miles Jack, they didn't play up to what Pittsburgh wanted. I mean, I think they only had I know they had no interceptions, they had no forced fumbles, they had no fumble recoveries, and I don't think they even had a sack out of them three players. So I think that's where Pittsburgh's like, you know what? It's time to go a different route, um, and get some sure tacklers in there, and stop this run game and get back to what Pittsburgh Steelers football is. Stop the run the ball down your throat, and when the game's on the line, Minka Fitzpatrick's gonna find that ball and seal the deal.
That's what I'm thinking too. I think it's what Pittsburgh wants to do. And signing her big, it gives them another option, particularly left guard. I think James Daniels is probably their best offensive lineman at right guard.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree.
and Herbig, I think that he's going to at least push for that left guard job with Dotson. And
Oh, he's
Pittsburgh,
yeah,
it's really the offensive tackle positions that are the question marks.
yeah. You never know what you're gonna get out of that, but we can get into that when we do another mock draft. Obviously, I have Pittsburgh taking a corner at 17 and taking a tackle at 32, but uh, nonetheless, 49ers moving on. Obviously, the big one we already mentioned in a previous video. We mentioned it again today. Javon Hargrave, uh, the best defense just gets better. They did bring in Sam Darnold. I don't know if they're just gonna have like 9 quarterbacks on the roster just in case. Uh, 8 of them go down. They got obviously they got destroyed by injuries at the quarterback position, but there's not really much in that area to cover with the San Francisco 49ers. The Seattle Seahawks, kind of the same. Obviously, they got Draymond Jones, which I really like that signing. They kind of, I mean, they went to defensive tackles, which I'm not mad at. And then obviously the big one, I wouldn't say big, but they brought in Devin Bush. I've always been a Devin Bush fan. Obviously, I think he's been different a player since he got injured, but I like that signing. Maybe Devin Bush can come back and he can kind of revitalize his career moving forward and going to Seattle. So I hope something happens with Devin. I hope he finds a home out there and he shows out like he did. I mean, he didn't show out to where he was supposed to be when he came to Pittsburgh, but he had a good couple years before he got injured. So hopefully he can get back to that Devin Bush play and show out in Seattle. Um, let's see here. Tampa. We did say one thing was going to happen, and it did happen. Which now it's really seeing now it's really coming together, and I can't take any credit for it. You mentioned the Leonard Fournette getting cut, which I agreed with that, but you said maybe in the draft they go with the running back. They go with the best running back in the draft, and it's starting to unfold, and I mean, it's starting to look like that may be an even more of a possibility. What do you think about the Baker Mayfield signing down there? Um, I don't know. I have Baker Mayfield so up and down, but I'm not going to get into it. I want you to kind of give a rundown on your thoughts on them signing Baker Mayfield. Do you think that they brought him in? That they're gonna. Does this solidify what we were saying? They kind of just they stay away from reaching for a quarterback. Do you think that they still try and reach for a quarterback in the first round? Do you think they go running back now that they got rid of Leonard? What's your thoughts on Baker? Do you think he's going to be the starter out there? Do you think he's going to have to compete for that starter job?
Oh, man, I think he's going to compete. I think that it's going to be one of those situations where it's going to be Kyle Trask's job to lose. I think it's his job, but he's just kind of penciled in, you know. And I think that Baker will get a fair shot to unseat him as the starting quarterback, but I think it's Kyle Trask's job to lose. Um,
I could agree with that. I could agree. Yeah, I can
yeah,
see that.
yeah. I
Absolutely.
think it's fair. It is fair. You know, Kyle doesn't really have any regular season, starts or anything like that. So it's understandable to at least have some insurance. You have a capable quarterback that could step in if Trask struggles. There's nothing wrong with that. Um, as far as Lenny goes, I think the writing was kind of on the wall. That Leonard Fournette was going to get released, and it just kind of came to fruition. It's just putting the connecting the dots or whatever. So yeah, I think that it reinforces the idea of going and getting a uh, a running back like Bijan Robinson and getting Jamel Dean back. Kind of takes the pressure off of having to draft a cornerback. So I don't think there's maybe outside of Torrance, I don't think there's really anybody worth taking offensive line wise high enough. So yeah, I could see running back still being a huge possibility with like Bijan Robinson.
I agree. I agree 100%. And obviously another one, Levante David going back there on a very cheap deal. I love that for Devontae, just for the fact that he spent his career there, and I mean, why not take a deal and go back to where you've been forever? So good on Levante. Good on the Bucks bringing him back and getting that locked in. Tennessee Titans. Um, I mean, they brought in Arden Key. Andre Dillard signed for 29 million. Not much with the Titans, honestly. Uh,
Titans really haven't. I mean, they're still talking about potentially trading Derrick Henry, but I mean, who knows if that'll even happen. But I do like the Dillard signing. I liked
yeah,
him out of Washington State
absolutely.
a few years ago. He's a had a rough start to his career, but hopefully he can turn it around. He has potential.
And that's another team that it's kind of like, what do they do at quarterback? Are they going to hand the keys over to Malik? Are they going to still ride with Ryan? It's kind of a mess, and it'll be interesting to see. I mean, I love Malik coming out. I think he's just a pure athlete. He needs a lot of grooming, but I don't know. I mean, obviously time will tell, and we'll see. Come season time, and maybe it'll be one of them situations of it's Ryan Tannehill's job to lose, or they have a true quarterback competition, and whoever outperforms the other one is the starter.
Yeah, I could see it being. I think Tannehill, I was reading, has like I think he has 1 year left on his contract, so maybe it's Tannehill's team for another year, and then Malik takes over. Who knows? It's the Titans are kind of a mess right now, man.
Yeah, you ain't wrong. I
Yeah,
mean,
their
I
offensive
mean,
line's
who's
deep.
to
Like,
say that the Tennessee Titans don't go out there during draft day and we get a pop up that says Derrick Henry got traded to the Philadelphia Eagles, kind of like the AJ Brown situation. So, who knows? I mean, it'll be hard to say what's going to happen in that situation, because there's not much information out there about the whole Derrick Henry situation and if teams actually have been reaching out. But like we said, I'm assuming they're trying to sell high to try to get a lot of draft capital, and who knows? Who knows with Derrick Henry? Love Derrick Henry. He's an absolute dog, but he was hurt. He did get hurt last year. He got hurt the year before. So I mean, maybe his trade value isn't quite as high as the Titans thinks it may be.
yeah, especially with all the stuff going on with these running backs this year with Eckler and Dalvin Cook and all these guys getting threatened to get moved around. I mean, running backs they're just kind of the value's depleting.
Yes, absolutely. Especially in this league. This league has turned into such a passing league that you just plug a running back in and he catches some passes, and it's what it is. I mean,
Yeah, yeah. There's so many good running backs coming out this year. I mean, if I was a lot of teams, I wouldn't want to give up anything for another running back or an aging running back. I would just be like, I'm just going to go draft one of these guys. So
yeah, and I mean, if you could get Derrick Henry for a third, a second, and a couple thirds, and maybe next year second, like by all means, if you're in win now mode and you want that Derrick Henry King Henry force, all means. But I don't feel that the Titans are just going to give him away for a bag of chips like most teams have been doing. So, last but not least, but the Commanders, the biggest one, obviously, Daron Payne resigning. Back there's big questions about him leaving, but he ended up re-signing with them. I'm a huge Daron Payne fan. I know they talked about him possibly being linked to Pittsburgh if he does leave, but he ended up going back, so good on him. Andrew Wiley, another signing, 24 million. Nick Gates, another signing. They've done a little bit. I do like that they brought in Jacoby Brissett as a little insurance program, but other than that, the Washington Commanders have a lot going on in that organization, to say the least.
yeah, they do. They're saying Dan Snyder like completely cleaned out his office and stuff. So that'll be a huge step in the right direction. Get that guy out of there,
I
out
know
of the
what you wanted to
ownership.
say.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to censor myself after winning on Storm Norton earlier. I should have saved that for Dan Snyder. But yeah, I think the Commanders, I think they make a change at ownership, and I think it'll have an effect on everybody else. I feel like everybody kind of walks on eggshells in Washington, and they have for years. And I think they're starting to slowly turn that team around.
Yeah, yeah. They have the defense and they have the offensive weapons. It's just some other pieces that they need in that organization, and hopefully that's another team that I'd love to see turn stuff around and start to be a contender again.
Yeah, I'd like to see Washington do something. Yeah, it would be nice.
And we want to close it out on the obviously the best available free agents that are still left on the board. Obviously, the big one is Gardner Johnson. We talked about that. Um, Odell Beckham. He hasn't played in almost 3 years. You could say close to 3 years. Well, I guess two because he got injured in that Super Bowl. So
Yeah, just consistently, he's just been hurt and dealing with injuries that are out of his control.
yeah, I mean he's had two ACL injuries since 2020, and that's not very good. Bobby Wagner. I know there's been talks with the recent restructure of Minka freeing up a cap space and then obviously cutting Miles. Um, the Steelers have a decent amount of cap space now, and Mitchell Trubisky could be another cap casualty that gets cut. But Bobby Wagner has been linked as a possibility for Pittsburgh, which them signing them two young linebackers, I just don't see it happening. I don't see why it would happen, but I've been wrong in the past. I'm not the Pittsburgh's organization, so who knows what happens. Dalton Schultz, another big one. He's definitely showed that he's a very solid tight end, still pretty young, 27 years old. Um, is there any team that you see could really like focus on someone like Dalton Schultz at the tight end position? Is there any like contender that you see that maybe like, maybe if they get him at the right price, maybe he could end up there? Is there anyone that you could see signing Dalton Schultz?
Um, yeah, I could see a team like the Bengals looking at Dalton Schultz. They lost Hayden Hurst. I could see them potentially looking into him. Maybe the Texans. Don't know if he wants to go to the Texans, but maybe the Texans. Hmm. Yeah, that's tough. Yeah, I'm sure there's other teams out there but those are the ones that kind of jump out to mind. I mean, maybe he'll, sign with the Raiders. I mean, after they traded Darren Waller away, so
Actually, I
I think
didn't even
there's
think about that.
places.
Yeah, that's actually not a bad thought there. Actually, hmm.
Yeah, I think there's places. There's potential. I think that Bobby Wagner may actually possibly go to the Cowboys. They need an off-ball linebacker, so Jerry's not afraid to make splash free agent signings in Dallas have been kind of quiet, as we alluded to earlier. So there's a possibility there too. Bobby Wagner could end up with the Cowboys.
Yeah, yeah, you're not wrong in that sense. Honestly, you're not wrong at all. I actually could see Bobby Wagner going there. Wouldn't be a bad signing by them. You had that veteran presence in there, and I mean, Bobby Wagner's Bobby Wagner. So that wouldn't be bad at all. The big one I want to touch on, and we talked about this before we started recording, is Yannick. Uh, I'm actually not even going to really speak on. I want you to speak on it because you had a good breakdown of it before we even got on here. So I want you to touch base on Yannick because I mean the dude's not. It's not like he's some bum. I mean the dude's a good edge rusher. So what do you think the problem is with him just bouncing to all these teams?
I can't really pinpoint anything because I don't really know the guy personally. It's just like it's fascinating to me that the guy's played for like five different teams. Meanwhile, he's 27 years old. He has he has 65 career sacks. Like he's still young. He's still got juice. I think he had like 9.5 last year with the Colts. Like
Yeah, 9.5. Yep, we looked at it before
he's
we.
yeah, he's a baller, man. Like he gets to the quarterback. I mean, he's not a run stopper. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe they just don't like that he's not an edge setter. Maybe that's what it is. But that guy can get up to the quarterback. Like every place he's been to, whether it was Jacksonville, Indianapolis, Minnesota, Baltimore, Vegas, he's produced in the sack category year in year out. So it's really fascinating to me that Ngakoue just cannot get a long term deal.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, every year except for unfortunately Baltimore, the year in Baltimore, he's been right around that 10 sack mark, and
Yeah.
it's crazy to me that he just let's just say 16 in 4 years. I mean, that's just it's wild to me that someone that is that consistent at getting to the quarterback just hasn't found a home.
It's crazy, man. Like I said, I don't know him personally. I don't know if he's like if it's a locker room thing, which I don't want to speculate or anything like that, but it doesn't really make sense to me, especially with it being a passing league, not as much running. It's like it's not as big of a deal. I mean, heck, a lot of people linebackers nowadays look like safeties.
Yeah,
So I mean,
right.
how big of a deal is it that he may not stack up as well against the run? So I'm not sure why Ngakoue. I loved him in Baltimore. I wanted him to stay in Baltimore, and we ended up letting him walk for whatever reason, and it is what it is. But yeah, it's surprising to me.
And I mean, just reading this breakdown, it says sacks and QB hits sell, but Ngakoue's inability to stop the run is possibly why he's likely to head to the 16. But like you said, this is a passing league nowadays, and linebackers look more like safeties and corners. But it's just crazy to me. But I do feel that someone will end up picking him up. I could see him going somewhere like the Chiefs on a cheap deal and a team that just comes off a winning Super Bowl. And why not just get better at getting to the quarterback and help that defensive secondary out?
Yeah, it'd be a good fit. It'd be a good fit for him to go to the Chiefs.
DJ Chark, obviously, another one. He's not. Uh, he's not the a top tier receiver, but he is young. He's 26 years old, and going to the right system that has other pieces around, he might excel in the slot. I think. That's another one. As much as I hate to say it, it's another one that might maybe he goes to the Chiefs on a super cheap deal, being that they're the Super Bowl champions, and you have Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes makes every receiver look good out there. So, I mean, DJ Chark's another one. It's there's some good players. As you mentioned, Rocky Sin is in Baltimore. They're checking him out, which could be a huge help to Baltimore's defense with Marcus Peters being a free agent. Um, the biggest one, and we talked about it, not the biggest one, but Jadeveon Clowney, an absolute freak of nature. He's 30 years old, I get it, but the dude, when he plays well. But when he's acting like a baby or he's hurt, he's just a detriment to the team. So I think that's kind of why Cleveland's moving on from him. And I don't see Jadeveon Clowney getting a big contract anywhere by any stretch of the means. I think I think his time of a big contract are gone. And does it go back to does he love the game of football? Does he still want to continue to play? Because 30 years old, I mean, he's not dead. Like he's not at the end of he's not done. But I mean, do you take the chance on bringing him into your system and he's a cancer in the locker room? What's your thoughts on Jadeveon, and what do you think? Do you think a team takes a chance on him? Do you think that this is the end of the ride for someone like Jadeveon Clowney?
I think somebody will take a chance on him. Unfortunately for Devian, is if he doesn't get, he's not going to get long-term deals. He's going to get a 1, maybe a 2-year deal because, I mean, Christ, he's been bouncing around for how long now? I mean, my goodness. So it's hard to say what's going to end up happening with him. I think somebody will sign him. It's just a matter of who. Like, who's going to take him? Who's going to deal with the baggage, the injury history, and all that? It's really hard to say. It's actually really unfortunate because I really liked him coming out of South Carolina, years ago, and he he's Pro Bowler, all this other stuff, and then we're right back in free agency again. So it's hard to say. I think a lot of it has to do with injury and kind of a poor attitude.
Yeah, I agree. Also, like you said, it is unfortunate for someone like Jadeveon. Such a force, but it's just not working out. Uh, some young ones I want to touch base on. One of them is Taylor Rapp, who is 25 years old. He didn't quite turn out to what the Rams were hoping, but we spoke on this briefly. I just feel like Taylor Rapp in the right system. I mean, he could be. He could be. I mean, he could be a great safety, but I think he needs coached up very well. Um, he obviously hasn't showed what everyone expected, but I mean, even as this breakdown says, he's an excellent tackler. He just hasn't turned into that playmaker. What's your thoughts on Rapp, and is there any teams that stand out that you think that he would fit best into that may have a veteran presence at safety that he could kind of get molded by?
Yeah, Rapp to me, he reminds me a lot of Ashton Davis, safety for the Jets. Like they're very similar. Like they're they're good, but they're just not like they haven't hit that next level. They have the potential and the athletic ability and all that. They just haven't hit that next tier for whatever reason. And I think a good I think a good spot for Rapp to go would be a team like the Bengals, where they're established, they're a winning team, and he's not in that weird like LA is just a mess,
Yeah,
you
to
know.
say the least.
So yeah, like they're just a mess right now, and that team's just kind of imploding, and everything's just kind of falling apart there. So I think a change of scenery, get out of that situation, go to a team like the Bengals, the Bills, just a team that's established with good coaches that can instill that confidence in him and build him up.
I agree. I agree with that 100%. I like that breakdown. Because I think he has the potential. Obviously, I mean, he's 25 years old. I mean, hell, there's players that come out in the draft that are 25 years old. So I mean, he's still very young, and he's obviously had some time in the NFL. So it'll be interesting to see with someone like him. Another one, Devin Singletary, another free agent, a young running back. I just don't think that he fit in Buffalo's system, personally. I think he Devin Singletary's he's just hard for me because there's times that he shows that he is that every down back, and there's times that he shows that he's like that bruiser that gets the hard yardage. So I mean, behind the right line of scrimmage, could he excel? Absolutely, any running back could, but I think unfortunately for Devin Singletary, I think that he's gonna have to take that 1 to 2 year deal sitting behind doing the dirty work, and maybe he gets in and he shows out somewhere. I think someone as young as Devin Singletary, and I think that he will eventually get picked up, and he will be with a team next year. And I, I don't know. Would your thoughts on Devin Singletary as far as me personally? I don't think that he's a pure starter and a three down back. That's just me and just seeing him in Buffalo. Do you think that he can get to that three down back? Do you think that he could be eventually be that focal point running back that the Buffalo Bills were hoping that he would be?
I think so. I think Singletary has. I think he can carry the load if you need to, but I think as far as a 17-week season, I think that he's more of a committee back. He's on the upper tier. He's not the guy that you can't depend on. You can definitely depend on him, and he can get the yardage. He has good hands, all that. Like I just think he fits better in a committee role. Maybe with like a team like the Cardinals with Connor. Him and James Conner can kind of split carries and whatnot. Like I think that it would be something. It would have to be something like that. But I think that if one of the other backs goes down, you, you can trust him to carry the load.
Yeah, I could see that honestly. I don't want to. I mean, we're already at an hour and 45 minutes here on this video, but a couple more people. Adam Thielen, being cut by the Vikings, and obviously he is that possession, sure-handed receiver. And there's going to be Adam Thielen's getting a job unless he retires. He's getting a job. Where it's going to be, I'm not. I don't know that obviously, but I wouldn't be mad if you see Adam Thielen go to someone that has a young receiving core, and I'm not talking the Jets because they just got Alan Lazard, so they're not going to fill that receiver room with all these people. They're just not. But maybe since someone like the Texans or one of these teams that are going to be drafting a quarterback gets that veteran receiver to give them a sure-handed receiver that they can trust and they can count on them third downs or in the red zone or something like that. What's your thoughts? Do you think he goes and he strictly only wants to play with a contender? He doesn't want to go through that rebuild process and help a young quarterback? Or do you think that he's willing to go help a young quarterback in a rebuild process?
I think Thielen's open to all options. He actually interviewed with the Panthers last week, and I was like, man, that would be a really, really good pick for him. They got the first overall pick, assuming they take, Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud or and whatnot, whichever quarterback they decide to go with.
Right.
Like you said, he would be a great veteran presence, a guy that is sure-handed, runs crispy routes. Like he knows how to get open. He knows how to play the receiver position, and he can also teach these young receivers, like Terrace Marshall and Shi Smith and those guys, and Laviska Shenault, and just be a good mentor. But also, like you said, just be that veteran presence for a young, up-and-coming team. And I think he'd fit perfect with the Panthers. I don't know if they're going to revisit and possibly get a deal done or not. But I think that would be a good position for him to be in as a team like the Panthers.
Yeah, I actually didn't even know that about him visiting with the Panthers. And honestly, like that would be awesome. I wouldn't mind that at all. And like you said, barring them not taking Bryce Young, if they took Bryce Young, why not have that veteran presence there and someone he can 100% count on as long as he's on the field and healthy, that is sure-handed. He's gonna catch your slant routes and your contested balls a lot of the times, being that he's such a good possession receiver. Um, One of the big names, which I think has been such a disappointment, but I would love for him to get a fair shake because of how athletic he is Irv Smith.
Yeah,
Uh,
all that.
Irv Smith, it's been injuries. That's been his problem.
Yeah,
And I mean, he's 25 years old. Once again, just like Rap, he's 25 years old, and tight end is one of them positions where a lot teams like to have options. So Irv Smith, I mean, he's not. He's more of a playmaking tight end if he's on the field, obviously, than he is a blocking tight end. And I would like, man, I'd really like for him to go somewhere and be healthy. And honestly, and at his age, I wouldn't be mind. It wouldn't be upset if he went to someone like Carolina. If he went somewhere like the Texans, someone that's going to get a quarterback, and they have that offensive threat at tight end that they can put out in the slot, and he's a matchup nightmare for them. I mean, your thoughts on Irv Smith and possible landing spots for him, because tight end's one of them weird positions where I don't see, you can't just lock someone into at the tight end. He's not like a receiver or a corner or something like that where you're like, oh, I could see him going there. Tight end to me, it's one of them hard positions of like, it's one of them teams that's like, you know what, we're gonna take a shot. It's gonna be cheap, and if he's on the field and he produces, we won. If he's not, it is what it is.
Yeah, I think a lot of the teams you just named too. You know, the Panthers and the Texans would be good landing spots for him. And he's one of those guys where when he's healthy, he's a mismatch. He's a mismatch guy, and he's fast. He brings a lot to the table athletically, but doesn't bring much in terms of a blocker. But like we said earlier, it's passing league, blah blah blah. Not going to be redundant, uh, but no, I think Irv Smith, he has a lot of potential. I'm hoping he gets like an Evan Ingram like chance to like revitalize his career and put some respect on his name. So yeah, same as we talked about with good lord, I'm drawing a blank. The other tight end for the Cowboys, free
Oh
agent.
yeah,
I
uh,
just drew a blank.
you asked me too fast. Dalton Schultz.
Dalton Schultz. Yeah, I was thinking of Jake Ferguson, but I was like, no, he still plays there. Yeah, Dalton Schultz. I think the same list of teams, that need tight end help, and I think Irv Smith, if he's healthy, I think he can help. He can help whatever team he goes to. Even like the Lions, they could use a tight end. So
Right. Absolutely
yeah,
agree. With that being said, we drug this video out super long. There was just a ton of free agent movement, and we wanted to cover pretty much all of it, break down every team and big signings, so on and so forth. But is there any closing thoughts that you want to put in there on with anything we covered, anything that popped in your mind as we were talking that we didn't quite cover?
um, no, not really. No, no, just kind of looking ahead to the draft and possibly gonna have a guest on the show potentially this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. That's gonna be exciting. It's gonna be cool having a third party in here. I can't wait for that. Actually, I'm gonna really do my due diligence and get everything set up to where we can have a three-way call and have someone else chatting in on here. So that'll be pretty cool. Um, Actually, I'll be honest. Whenever you brought that up to me today, I was like, that'd be awesome having a third party in here, and I know he's excited. Obviously, he's been bothering you to get on. So, and our buddy Kyle said he wanted to get on, so he'll be on eventually. Obviously, he's got to get settled in and everything, but yeah, it would be cool to get the special guest in on the talking and let him talk some sports and talk college, because I mean that dude knows college football very well. So
Yeah, I think it'd be fun. It would open up a whole different dimension, and be able to have some fun with it, like we talked about previously in our introduction. And everything we want to try to be interactive and have people phone in, not just people we know, but just people that watch our videos and enjoy our stuff and want to voice their opinions and kind of give their picks and whatnot. So I think it'll be fun. Yeah, we want to keep going the interactive route, and that'll be a good start.
absolutely, absolutely. Well, with that being said, we want to thank everyone that's taken the time to watch the videos and pay attention to it. Even if you skim through it, just trying to find your team, and you listen to what we have to say about your team and what your team's doing. We appreciate everyone, and thank you again for tuning in to BS Draftcast, because all we do is BS about football.